Hey guys, this is Mike with Remix Games and Dark Saint Studios, bringing you Dev Days Episode 1. With this new Dev Day series, we are trying to give you guys a behind the scenes of some of the development for Line of Fire. For those of you watching this video on my personal channel, Line of Fire is a first-person shooter that I'm on a team helping develop, and it's pretty much the reason why I've gone inactive on Dark Saint Studios. So if you're interested in seeing what I've been up to, I suggest checking out the Remix Games Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. But anyways, back to this video. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing and the workflow I'm using and why I'm doing it. Also, the reason why I've included a recording of myself is because I wanted to show you guys when I am analyzing my reference photos and then going back to actually modeling. In addition, I'll let you guys know that I was an idiot and forgot to change the recording settings on the camera, so the footage of me working actually ends about 9 minutes into the video. So anyways, I'll start out first by pointing out that you should take a good amount of time to come up with good reference images for the models that you're trying to create, especially if they're from real life. It saves you a lot of time by having a good collection of photos rather than having to go out every few minutes or so trying to find another reference image. In addition, I find it's worth taking the time to make a collage in Photoshop of the different sections that you're trying to model, especially if you have several reference images. It's easier to pan around one image rather than having to flip between several photos looking for the best angle of what you're trying to model. Now, of course, this isn't as important if you only have one or two reference images, but for what I'm making, the interior of the Sandcat, I have at least 10 images, so this definitely helps out. So some of you might be thinking, okay, so how about talking about what you're actually making? Well, right now, I'm currently working on creating the high poly version of the Sandcat interior. The Sandcat is a multi-purpose military vehicle which exists in real life, and it will serve as a light armored vehicle in Line of Fire. Obviously, as you can tell from the video, I've been working quite a bit on the dashboard before making this video, so I'll be finishing it up and starting on the driver's seat. Now, in order to make this model, I use a technique called hard surface modeling. With this technique, you create your base structure and then you add edge loops in order to maintain that structure when you go to subdivide and smooth. Now, for those who aren't familiar with game modeling, the reason why you make a high poly version of a model is so that you can bake details into texture maps so that your low poly model appears to have a lot more detail. Typically when you bake, you get two maps, your ambient occlusion map and your normals map. The ambient occlusion will be used to add detail to your main diffuse texture as well as your specular texture, and then the normal map is used by the render engine to interpret how light hits the surface of your model. This is very important when you want to make it appear that there are a lot of surface details on your low poly model. Now, for my workflow, I try to use a very non-destructive way about making my high poly models. And the reason for this is quite simple. It will save me a lot of time when I go to convert it to being my low poly version. This is really the reason why I love 3ds Max's modifier stack. I can save a lot of time by simply turning off modifiers in order to revert back to my low poly version, rather than having to go through and manually remove edge loops or having to make the low poly version from scratch. Typically what I do is whenever I add a new level of detail, I will add an additional edit poly modifier onto the stack. But I need to be smart and careful about when I do this, because once I start adding topology or vertices or edges or whatever you want to view it as, polygons, to this new edit poly modifier, I can't add or remove topology from the ones below it without messing up my new topology on these new modifiers. So basically, the way I go about doing this is I separate out the way I model into using three editable poly modifiers. The first one contains my base structure. I'll then add a new edit poly modifier to make the details, and then I will add another one for edge loops. This way, if I need to make major changes to positions of the structure, I can go into my first edible poly modifier, change my vertices around, and then go back to adding in all my details and edge loops. This makes it so I don't have to worry about moving all the topology around in my details or edge loops modifiers, because it gets moved around automatically once I go back to working in them. So later on, once I finish up all my high poly modeling and I'm ready to go make my low poly version, all I have to do is duplicate my high poly, delete all the modifiers except for my base structure edible poly, and then from there I can just optimize the topology. It's pretty simple and it's a fast way to work. Anyways, I hope you guys understood what all I was saying. It's the first time I talked about my workflow, so hopefully I made it somewhat sensible. I'll shut up now and turn up the music to finish out the video. thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you want us to make more, just let us know. In addition, we have other members who can record themselves doing what they do. So we can have Sam doing speed art of his concept paintings, or Louis doing sound and graphic designs. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Remix Games YouTube channel, and you can follow the game's development more in depth on our Facebook and Twitter. All those links are in the description, and I'll talk to you guys later.